Welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening to this, chances are you're someone who likes to optimize things.
Right. Your time, your career.
Yeah, exactly. Your habits, your overall trajectory in life. You're here to learn, and you definitely want to maximize your time.
Absolutely.
But today we're looking at a pretty fascinating stack of source material that suggests the one area highly successful people routinely fail to optimize is the one that actually matters most.
Their personal lives.
Yes. Specifically, we're exploring a very common but incredibly paradoxical phenomenon. We're looking at why highly successful men in their 40s,
And we are talking about guys who have the money, the discipline, the absolute stability.
right, guys who have it all on paper, but they often find themselves completely, entirely single.
It's a brilliant topic because it highlights a massive blind spot in the modern professional landscape. I mean, you look at these individuals and think, well, on paper, they have every single trait that would make them an ideal partner.
Oh, for sure.
They've achieved their goals, they have the resources, they have the life experience and the maturity. But there is this massive disconnect between their professional success and their personal lives.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's almost as if the very traits that made them successful in the boardroom are actively sabotaging them in the dating market.
And that leads us to the core irony here. These men in their 40s, they aren't single because they can't attract women.
No, that's not the issue at all.
Right, they're single because they simply don't have the time. Work hasn't just become something they do to pay the bills. Work has entirely consumed their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sun in their solar system, and everything else has just been burned away.
Hmm.
Over the years, dating has just slowly, quietly disappeared from their radar.
Which brings us to the actual mission of our deep dive today. And I want to set the framework early on because it's important to clarify what our sources are actually advocating here.
Yeah, let's get that straight.
The goal here isn't to wag a finger at busy professionals and tell them they need to work less. No one is saying, abandon your hard-earned career and go focus entirely on romance.
Because telling a self-made entrepreneur or a dedicated executive to just chill out and go to more bars is completely unrealistic.
Exactly.
It goes against their entire operating system.
Precisely. Instead, the strategy outlined in our materials is to show these successful men how to approach dating with the exact same strategic mindset, the exact same rigorous discipline that they've already used to achieve their career success.
Right.
We're taking the executive skills they already possess, strategic planning, pipeline management, efficiency, and simply applying them to a different objective.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the shift from how you operate in your 20s to how you operate in your 40s is massive.
Oh, it's a completely different world.
It is. And I think we need to ground ourselves in that reality first. Think about dating in your 20s. Life is inherently spontaneous.
Right.
You're out there chasing opportunities. You're trying to figure out who you are, what your career is going to be. And dating. Dating is often just a numbers game.
Just random connections.
Yeah. It's going out on a Friday night with a group of friends and just seeing what happens. You have the energy to bounce back from a late night, and the stakes are relatively low.
What's fascinating here is the psychological and practical shift that occurs as a man transitions into his 40s. By the time you reach that stage, especially as a highly successful individual, you're no longer just chasing new opportunity.
Right. You're managing what you've built.
Exactly. You are actively managing heavy responsibilities. You might be running a business, leading a massive team, or dealing with stakeholders who depend on you.
And the pressure is real.
You're working these incredibly long hours just to maintain the complex, successful life that you've spent the last 2 decades building. A random Tuesday night out isn't just a fun adventure anymore.
No, it's a liability. It completely ruins your Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
And success demands focus. Over time, because of that intense demand, work slowly becomes your default state of being. The research paints this picture where the days just start to blur together. Then the weeks completely disappear. You're putting out fires, you're scaling operations, and suddenly you look up and the very concept of dating feels like this extravagant luxury that you simply can't afford.
Right.
You literally feel like you don't have the hours in the day to give to another human being.
But here's where we need to challenge that perception, because it points to the absolute core issue identified in the sources.
Yeah.
The critical distinction is that the problem isn't actually a lack of time.
Okay.
We all have the same 24 hours. The President of the United States has the same 24 hours as you do. The real issue is a lack of intentional time.
Hold on, I'm going to push back there a little bit.
Sure.
If a guy is working 80 hours a week, traveling for client meetings, and managing a team of 50 people, how is that not a literal lack of time? His calendar is objectively full.
It's full, yes, but look at how it's full. Think about the successful business owner. They schedule every single aspect of their lives that they deem important.
Sure.
They schedule board meetings, they schedule cross-country flights, they schedule gym sessions, they even schedule deep work where they turn off their phones.
Right, the time blocks.
Exactly. But they leave relationships to chance. They schedule absolutely everything except their personal life. And because they don't schedule it, they remain mentally stuck in work mode 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
They expect a relationship to just organically manifest, which is a wild assumption for someone who wouldn't leave a single quarterly goal to chance. Relationships require presence, and presence requires intention.
That's a really great point. It's like they have this incredible high-performance engine that they use to drive their business forward, but when it comes to dating, they just turn the engine off, sit in the driveway, and hope a perfectly formed relationship will somehow magically fall from the sky.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's get into the actual mechanics of fixing this, because I want to talk about redefining the date itself. I think a lot of busy men assume that dating requires these huge, overwhelming time commitments.
They do.
They picture a date and they think, oh man, that's a 3-hour, 4-course dinner, or that's an entire weekend trip.
And that assumption is exactly what prevents them from even trying. If you believe a date requires giving up your entire Saturday evening, and your Saturday evening is your one window to catch up on administrative work,
Or just sleep.
or simply recover from a grueling week, you're going to opt out of the dating market entirely. You'll just say, I'm too busy.
Right.
But the source material provides a completely different framework. It highlights what we might call the microdate. The data shows that a genuine, meaningful connection can be established in less than 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours.
Mm.
Honestly, that's the length of a single Zoom meeting that probably could have been an email.
Exactly. The microdate is about efficiency without sacrificing quality. We're talking about a mid-morning coffee meeting, a short evening walk followed by grabbing dessert, or even a lunch date right in the middle of the workday.
Okay.
The fundamental point here is that dating isn't about spending all day together, especially not in the early stages. It's about creating consistent, low-friction moments of connection.
But wait, doesn't a lunch date during the workday feel a bit clinical? Like you're squeezing someone in between a Q3 earnings review and a strategy sync. Doesn't it feel like a job interview?
It only feels like a job interview if you treat it like one. The environment doesn't dictate the energy, you do.
Fair point.
In fact, a lunch date or a quick coffee naturally removes the heavy romantic pressure of a candlelit dinner. It establishes a boundary. You both know you have to get back to your lives.
Oh, I see.
It actually frees you up to just be yourself for 45 minutes without the looming expectation of how the night is supposed to end.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Mm.
And I love the idea of shorter dates because of the risk mitigation. Think about the sunk cost fallacy of modern dating.
Oh, yeah.
If you commit to a huge, expensive dinner, and within the first 10 minutes you realize there is absolutely no chemistry, you are trapped.
You're stuck there.
You are sitting there for another 2 hours, agonizing over the appetizer menu, suffering through small talk, knowing you're never going to see this person again.
The worst.
But if it's just a relaxed coffee date, the stakes are so much lower. If the chemistry is great, amazing, you can always plan something longer for the weekend.
Right.
If it's not, you finish your latte, you politely shake hands, and you go back to the office.
Yeah.
It's a highly efficient use of capital, in this case, your time and energy.
It is an incredible efficiency. And speaking of the timeline leading up to the date, we have to address one of the most glaring inefficiencies of modern romance: the endless texting loop.
Oh man, the texting treadmill, it is so relatable, and it is honestly a massive drain.
Huge jerk.
You match with someone, or a mutual friend introduces you, and then you fall into modern dating's worst trap. It's just days of messaging back and forth.
How was your day?
Good, how's yours? Crazy at work. Then that turns into weeks of casual, low-effort conversation. And the absolute worst part, which the research points out, is that sometimes after all of that time investment, people never even meet in person.
Yep.
The conversation just slowly fizzles out.
Yeah.
For a guy running a company, that is a massive drain of mental bandwidth for zero return on investment.
It's the ultimate inefficiency. It's the equivalent of sending 50 emails to a prospective client without ever getting them on a discovery call.
Right.
Which is why the source offers a very clear strategic fix for this problem. Let's call it the 20-minute rule. Instead of falling into the trap of endless messaging, the strategy is to exchange just a few initial messages to establish a baseline of interest and then immediately schedule a short call.
A phone call. People are terrified of the phone these days. You're telling a guy should just ask to call someone he barely knows.
Yes, a literal voice call. And here's why it works. A 20-minute call reveals significantly more about a person, your chemistry, and your compatibility than weeks of typing messages back and forth.
That's true.
You hear their tone of voice, you gauge their sense of humor, you see if the conversation flows naturally or if it's forced. It cuts through the curated persona people present over text.
It's a discovery call for dating.
Exactly.
It actually communicates high value. It says, look, I value my time. I respect your time. Let's just hop on the phone and see if we actually connect before we clear our schedules.
Yes.
And then from that 20-minute call, you immediately set up one of those short, in-person micro-dates we just talked about. It completely bypasses the texting purgatory.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, all of these tactics, the microdates, the quick phone calls, they all lead back to a fundamental principle of highly successful people. It's the cardinal rule of executive functioning. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist.
Now, I have to stop you right there.
Yes.
Scheduling romance.
Yes.
Putting a date on a Google Calendar next to your dentist appointment and your quarterly tax meeting, that sounds incredibly robotic and, frankly, unromantic.
I hear that a lot.
We're raised on movies where romance is about locking eyes across a crowded room and being swept off your feet. We aren't raised to send a calendar invite for Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Doesn't that completely kill the magic?
That's a common objection, but it's based on a flawed premise. We assume structure is the enemy of romance. But the reality for a 40-something professional is that structure is what creates freedom.
Okay.
You cannot rely on spontaneity when your days are packed with high-level obligations. If you just wait for a free evening to magically appear, you'll be waiting forever.
Right, because it never will.
The sources argue that if a relationship actually matters to you, if finding a partner is a genuine priority, then it must be scheduled just like everything else in your life that matters.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Because I'm guessing it doesn't mean scheduling be romantic for a 15-minute block.
No. It's about protecting the time. It could mean blocking out 2 specific evenings per month dedicated solely to going on dates and treating those blocks as non-negotiable appointments.
Okay.
It could be protecting a weekly lunch hour specifically for personal connections. Or maybe it's just a relaxed midweek coffee that is hard-coded into your week. It doesn't make the interaction itself robotic. It simply ensures the interaction actually happens. It proves you are prioritizing the search for a partner.
Okay, I see the distinction. The calendar protects the time, but you still bring the magic to the actual date.
Exactly.
And another way to hack the calendar, which highly productive people are famous for, is a concept called time stacking.
Yes, time stacking is a vital tool here. Highly productive people know they can't magically manufacture a 25th hour in the day.
Right.
Instead, they look at what they are already doing and see where they can integrate a date without adding an entirely new, massive block of time to their schedule. They combine activities.
But give me an example, because when I hear combine activities, I'm picturing a guy taking his Hinge date to the dry cleaners, which sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, no.
Hey, watch me pick up my shirts. Isn't this romantic?
No, it's not about forcing someone to run your errands with you. It's about leveraging adjacent time. For example, if you already go to the gym every Saturday morning, you arrange to meet someone for a smoothie right after your workout. You were already going to be in that neighborhood. You were already taking that hour out of your house.
Oh, I see.
Or if you have to run errands downtown, you suggest meeting at the coffee shop next door to the hardware store for 20 minutes.
Okay, I actually really like that. It's incredibly low pressure. You're saying, hey, I'm going to be in your area running some errands on Saturday morning. Would you want to grab a quick coffee at that place on Main Street?
Wait, it's easy.
It's brilliant because it removes the heavy expectation.
Right.
If the date is a dud, whatever, you still needed to buy mulch anyway. The day isn't wasted. You're simply using your existing geographical and temporal footprint more efficiently. You're stacking the habits.
Precisely. However, while time stacking and strict calendar control are incredibly effective logistical strategies, there is a physiological and psychological reality that we have to address. The source text brings up a major hurdle for successful professionals: protecting your energy.
This is huge because let's face the reality of the executive lifestyle. After a long day of making high-stakes decisions, managing crises, and leading a team, mental exhaustion is real.
Decision fatigue.
Yes, decision fatigue is a very real physical thing. By 6 p.m., you are completely drained. You cannot just magically switch gears from being the intense, demanding boss in the boardroom to being a charming, relaxed, engaging, romantic partner.
It absolutely doesn't work. The context switching is too jarring. If you try to go straight from a stressful negotiation to a first date, you're going to carry all of that aggressive analytical energy with you.
And nobody wants to date a spreadsheet.
Right. Which is why the text emphasizes the absolute necessity of the transition period. You have to create a deliberate buffer between your work life and your personal life. The strategy suggested is taking a 20-minute decompression period.
A 20-minute decompression.
Right.
What does that actually entail for a guy whose phone is buzzing every 30 seconds?
It requires complete disconnection. It can be very simple, but it has to be intentional. It might mean sitting in your car and just listening to an album you love before walking into the restaurant.
Okay.
It might mean going for a short, quiet drive, or simply sitting in your office with the door closed and the screens off, focusing on your breathing.
It's a hard reset.
Exactly. It's about letting the brain power down from its highly analytical, stress-driven, problem-solving state and shifting back into a state of openness and presence.
Context switching is a known productivity killer in business, and it turns out it's a romance killer too.
It really is.
If you show up to a date and your mind is still reviewing the supply chain spreadsheets from an hour ago, your date is going to feel that immediately. They're going to feel that you aren't really there.
They'll know.
You're physically present, but mentally you're still at the office. Taking that 20-minute drive, playing your favorite music, just resetting the nervous system, it changes the entire vibe of the interaction.
Completely.
And this brings us to a really profound point in the material about what dating in your 40s actually represents. We talked earlier about how the 20s are all about random connections and playing a high-volume numbers game. But the 40s,
It's different.
yeah, the research indicates that dating in your 40s is entirely about alignment.
That is a critical shift in perspective that changes the entire goal of the exercise. In your 20s, you're casting a wide net. In your 40s, you're using a sniper rifle.
I like that analogy.
You are no longer looking for just anyone who is fun on a Friday night. You are looking for deep compatibility, stability, and peace. You do not need to go on dozens and dozens of dates. In fact, doing so is an exhausting, wildly inefficient way to operate at this stage of your life. The validation here is incredibly clear. You just need one person.
Just one person. You aren't trying to build a roster. You're trying to fill a single, very specific executive position in your life, so to speak.
Exactly. You need one person who fundamentally understands your lifestyle, someone who grasps that you are driven, that you carry immense responsibilities, and that your time is highly valuable. And most importantly, someone who shares your core values and vision for the future. When you focus entirely on quality and alignment rather than the sheer quantity of dates, the entire process becomes far less draining and far more focused.
Because you're filtering better.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're screening for red flags and misalignments early, often during that initial 20-minute phone call.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Especially if you fall into this exact demographic of the fiercely disciplined, highly successful professional who looks around and realizes their personal life is a bit of a ghost town.
It's time to adapt.
Right. Let's synthesize the main takeaways we've explored today. First and foremost, being a workaholic or a high achiever in your 40s absolutely does not mean that you have to give up on having a relationship. That's a false narrative.
It is entirely false. It simply means that the passive, spontaneous approach of your 20s will no longer work for your current lifestyle.
Right.
You have to apply the exact same discipline, strategic thinking, and intentionality to your dating life that you used to build your career.
You have to redefine dates to be short and efficient microdates.
You must kill the texting loop with quick, decisive phone calls.
You have to put your personal life on your actual calendar.
And you must protect your energy with transition periods so that when you do show up, you are present, grounded, and focused on finding true alignment.
And we have to ask the ultimate question. Why do this? Why add yet another layer of strategy, another set of tasks to an already packed life?
Because of the ultimate payoff.
Exactly. The materials point to a profound realization that many successful people hit eventually. Success feels very different when you actually have someone to share it with.
It does.
Building an empire is an incredible achievement, but sitting in the castle alone every single night, that's a very different, much colder reality.
That shared experience is what transforms simple career achievement into actual holistic life fulfillment. The peace and stability you're looking for in your 40s are found in that shared alignment. It's the ultimate return on investment.
It really is. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Go for it.
We've just spent all this time talking about treating dating like a strategic business objective. Optimizing your calendar, screening candidates, executing microdates to find the perfect partner.
Right.
But here is the question. If you successfully treat dating like a project to acquire a partner, does the relationship itself eventually just become another well-managed project to maintain on your calendar?
Oh.
Or, by finding that true, perfect alignment we discussed, does the relationship finally become the one space in your life where you can throw away the calendar completely and stop having to be the boss?
That is the ultimate question of balance. Can the strategist learn to surrender?
It really is. Something for you to think about as you go through your day or as you take your next 20-minute decompression drive.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep optimizing, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next one.